Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa Distance Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is MEL3E, grade 11 workplace math, and I am the teacher, Bronwyn Slade. If you'd like to participate live today, you can call the Wahsa studio at 1-800-465-7144 or 737-4017. You can listen on the radio at 91.9 FM and also on the television at Bell Express View, channel 972. You are always welcome to join me live through the Zoom link, which is available both from me, your teacher, and also your DEC. Our classes are scheduled from Monday through Thursday, 9 until 10 in the morning, and we are in our 5th week of our 9-week course. Next week is March break, so we will be closed and not broadcasting. So the week of March 13th through 17th, we will not be broadcasting. We will be back on March 20th to continue with our course. Take a break, rest. It's important to do that as well. All right. It is also important to be submitting your work at this point, as we are now over halfway through our course. So a reminder that the support questions, the ones with a little pencil icon, are not for marking. These are your practice problems. It's a really good idea to do these problems if they set you up for success for the key questions, but you can decide which ones and how many to do. If you're understanding a concept, it's okay to skip questions and to focus just on what you're struggling with or what you're finding more difficult. Also, if you need more practice, please let me know, and I'm happy to send you more practice. The key questions are the ones with the little key icon, and they are the mark questions. So do all of these ones I'm marking, so I'm expecting all of them. So do all of them, and also show your work, show your steps, your thinking, explain to me what it is that you're doing so that I can really understand what it is that you understand. And I have more information if you are struggling with something. It gives me more information about how I can support you to help you understand. So how do you submit your work for marking? Well, there are 3 methods. The first is to scan your work and send it electronically. If you have a device, you can scan your work using an app. If you have an Apple device, the Notes app has a scan function. And if you have an Android device, the Google Drive app has a scan function. They're really straightforward, point and click, basically just like taking a picture. But if you do need some help, on my YouTube channel, there are tech tutorials that walk you through step-by-step how to use each of these apps. You can still take a picture and send them pictures to me. It's just that when you scan, they become smaller files, and usually you can just make it one file, which is just a little bit easier to work with. And then you can send them to me through email to studentwork@nnec.on.ca, and then also CC it to me directly at bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca. Or you could also send it to me through Facebook Messenger, where my name is B. Slate Wahsa. The second method is to drop your work off in Sioux Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at 74 Front Street. We are the bright red building next to the post office, and we have a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. So just put your work in there at any time. The third method is to hand your work into your DEC. Your DEC can either send your work through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. If you'd like to connect with me through social media, both my Facebook and my YouTube channel are under the name B. Slate Wahsa. All of our radio Zoom classes are recorded, and I upload them to YouTube shortly after broadcasting. I put them in a playlist called MEL3E, so you can find all of this term's classes as well as previous classes, as well as short videos that explain common errors and confusing concepts. So if there's something that you're struggling with that isn't directly related to our current concepts, but is a building block that you need, go check out my YouTube channel, as there might be something there that addresses it and helps you along. Math is a really visual subject, so I strongly encourage you to access the videos. Either joining me live and watching on Zoom. You don't have to talk to me. It's okay. You don't have to ask me questions. You can just watch. That's fine. Or watching the YouTube channel videos whenever it's convenient for you are both great options. If neither of those work for you, then let me know, and I'm happy to send you a copy of the recordings so that you still have the full experience and can really set yourself up for success. So if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out and connect with me. This is what I'm here for, is to support you however I can. Send me an email at bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca. Send me a Facebook message at bslatewasa. Call me at the office at 807-737-1488, extension 2209, or also toll free 1-800-667-3703. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., but I teach from 9 until 11, so that is not a good time to try to get a hold of me. If this time doesn't work, if you're working or life is just busy in this time and you'd like to connect outside of those hours, let me know and we can try to schedule something that works for both of us. Today's lesson is a Throwback Thursday lesson focusing on lessons 9 through 12, but of course we will go back all the way to lesson 1 to help us remember what it is that we've been learning. So we're halfway through the course, so we're not quite at the end, so you might be wondering why we're reviewing already. Well, there was research done by Hermann Ebbinghaus in 1885, which has been continued and referred to, that showed us that we forget information really, really quickly. So after about one day after we learned something, we've already forgot about 20% of what it is that we learned. After 2 days, we've lost another 15% or so, and that continues. That by a week, we've only retained about 40%. So we've lost about 60% of what we've learned a week later. This research continued found that if we continue to revisit concepts and we continue to relearn what it is that we learned, not only do we remember more of it because we continue to go back and relearn it and so fill up our brains with the same information back up to 100%, but it takes us longer to forget it. So yes, in the first day, we'll forget 20%. That means we only have 20% that we really need to relearn. And then now that we've learned it twice, it now takes us 2 days to forget that same 20%. So then if we revisit it again, we're back up to 100%. We relearn that 20%. It might be a slightly different 20%. That's not the important part. But now it's going to take us 3 days to forget that 20%. So if we just keep revisiting, we are more likely to hold on to that information, which is helpful when we have a culminating at the end of the course or an exam. I know my experience is often I get to the end of a course when I was a student and I'd be like, what was it that we even did at the beginning of the course? I have no idea, because we learned it, we did a test on it, then we moved on to the next topic, and we never came back to it. So it didn't feel like it was significant. It didn't feel like it was important, and our brains didn't hold on to it. But as always, let's activate our brain first with some mental math before we dive into our review. Hopefully by now you realize that I don't like Mad Math Minutes. I don't think that they strengthen student skills or build confidence. Instead, in our class, we focus on that strengthening skill and building confidence based on logical connections and friendly numbers that each of us can individually choose. And so we develop strategies that help us attacking math problems that way. So our question today is 91 times 63, and we're using the strategy of partial products. This is a strategy that I did not learn in elementary school, or high school. But when I did learn it as a math teacher, I really like it. So the thing with partial products is that we're going to make sure that we're multiplying each part by each part of the numbers. So we're going to break the numbers up in their place value to make them easier to multiply. So 91, we're going to break up into be 90 plus 1, and 63, we're going to break up to be 60 plus 3. And now I like to draw little lines wherever I have a plus sign in order to keep myself organized, just so I can see that I need to multiply 90 plus 6 times 60, and then 90 times 3, then 1 times 60, and 1 times 3. So having this organized just helps. So 90 times 60, well, I know that 9 times 6 is 54. So 90 times 60 is going to be 5,400. Then 90 times 3. Again, I know that 9 times 3 is 27. So 90 times 3 is going to be 270. Then 1 times 60 is 60, and 1 times 3 is 3. So now that I've done all my multiplication, I need to combine these. I need to add them up. And so this can be something that you can either choose to write them down or to just think logically, whatever works for you. So I can see, okay, well, 60 plus 70 is going to be 130. So 60 plus 270 is going to be 330. So 5,400 plus 330 is going to be 5,730 plus 3 is going to be 5,733. This is very, very similar to doing your classic algorithm, which most of us have learned, and how we expect to do math. So where we do 3 times 1, which is 3, and then we say 3 times 9, which is 27. So really what we've done is 3, this 3 times is the same as this 3, right? Times 1, which is up here, and then 3 times 90. We call it 9, but it's 90 because then we get 270. So that's how we get 273. Then always the tricky part is when people are like, well, then you have to put a placeholder 0, which is just, or some people don't even put it in, they just leave it in and move it over to the next space. And it's like, I've had teachers ask me, why do we even do that? I don't even know why we do that. Well, it's because we're not multiplying by 6, but we're multiplying by 60. And so everything is going to be increased by a factor of 10. So then we have 6 times 1, which is 60. And then 6 times 9, which is 54, or 60 times 90, which is 5,040. Then we add them up and like that usually, and then you can see that we get the same answer. So the information is all the same way. This algorithm that we're all taught is the standard algorithm is just a shortcut. It's not anything. I don't know why you skip backwards. It is not anything different. The math is not different. It's just a shortcut. It's just a shorthand that's really easy to write down. But the math isn't any different than all the strategies that we're doing. So doing this box method or this partial products method, if it makes more sense to you than doing the algorithm, which seems confusing and arbitrary, it's totally fine. The math is the same. Okay, so what are our highlights for what we've covered so far in our course? So going back all the way to Unit 1, let's remember where we started. So in Lesson 1, we talked about earning an income. So we looked at salary, which is getting paid a certain amount for the whole year that then gets cut up and given to you in regular payments. We talked about piecework, which is when you get paid based on how much individual jobs that you do. So is that mowing lawns? Is that making t-shirts? Is that making pies? Whatever, making beadwork. These are individual things that you get paid on based on the work that you actually do, the thing that you accomplish. And we talked about job advertisements and where to find them and how to understand them. In Lesson 2, we looked at commission and hourly rates. So hourly rates are when you get paid per hour. So the number of hours that you work, you get paid a certain amount for each of those hours. If you work overtime, so you work over the number of hours that you are regularly scheduled to work, and then you get paid more for those extra hours. Usually this is what's called time and a half. So it's 1.5 times your general hourly rate. Sometimes it can be double time. That is dependent upon the organization and the what has been decided by your place of employment. Then commission is another way that you get paid, which is when you get paid a certain percentage of the amount of things that you sell. So this is often like car salesmen, or even in retail, you have a whole bunch of people trying to give you support. It's because they get paid based on how much you buy. Often with commission, you also have a salary, like a base salary. So you get paid a certain amount no matter what, but then you get paid more based on how much you sell. Then in lesson 3, we looked at gross and net pay. So your gross income is your total income, whereas your net income is your gross income subtracting your deductions. So your net income is your actual take-home pay, the money that you actually get. We talked about the standard deductions, which are EI, employment insurance, CPP, Canadian Pension Plan, and income tax, and how everyone who is working pays into those things because they support you in the future. If you get laid off or your job becomes doesn't exist anymore, then you can get employment insurance, or if you go on parental leave. CPP is when you retire, then you have a certain amount of pension, and income tax pays for all sorts of, our taxes system pays for all sorts of services like our healthcare, like our education, like our libraries, our arena management, all sorts of public services are all partly paid for through our taxes. Then we talked about monthly expenses and how to begin to think about budgeting. In lesson 4, we looked at paying taxes. So we looked at both tax paperwork and how to fill that out, and how different ways that you can actually complete your taxes, which right now, March and April is the time that most folks do their taxes. So go back to review this if you're actually doing your taxes. It is useful. We talked about the tax brackets, which is how our taxes are calculated and how, depending on how much of your income falls into each of the pockets we've been calling them, then you get taxed a certain percent on each of those pockets. And then we talked about hidden taxes and how jewelry, cigarettes, and gasoline all have taxes that are built into their price that we don't necessarily notice. In lesson 5, we looked at making purchases, where we do making change with the fewest coins possible is usually when we're using cash, makes the most sense. We talked about sales tax, which is PST, GST, and HST. We talked about how to calculate discounts and how to estimate costs, as most of us go through life without carrying a calculator or using the calculator that we're carrying in our phone. But being able to estimate and make informed decisions is a really useful practice. Then in unit 2, lesson 6 was buying decisions. So we looked at the unit price and what is often referred to as the best buy, as well as incentive programs and how to convert currencies between different countries, specifically focusing on Canadian to US dollars, as that is probably the most frequently used currency conversion in our area. Then in lesson 7, we looked at simple interest, which is calculated only on the principal and uses the formula I equals PRT. And then in lesson 8, we connected simple interest to compound interest. So remember that simple is only calculated on the principal, whereas compound is calculated on the principal and the interest. And we use spreadsheets to see how these two are connected and how they grow in different ways. And then now we started looking more deeply at compound interest in lesson 9. So we realized that it grows exponentially. So it grows faster and faster and faster because the pattern increases or decreases if you're paying a loan back at a constant ratio. So you're multiplying the same amount each time. The formula is A equals P times 1 plus R divided by N to the exponent NT. A is your final amount, P is your principal, R is your interest rate, T is your time, it has to be in years, and N is your number of compounding periods. Remember, there is another formula, A equals P times 1 plus I to the exponent N, but we talked about in this lesson how they are the same basic formula, just that I like this one better because it breaks down all the parts that you need, opposed to you having to remember or guess where the other information goes. And then we talked about how interest, you have to find the actual interest amount by doing your amount that you calculated and subtracting the principal to find the actual interest that you have earned. Then in lesson 10, we looked at banking transactions. So here we talked about different types of bank accounts, specifically checking and savings accounts. We talked about the types of codes that are going to be on statements and the various transactions that you can do with a bank account. Being able to understand this is really important so that you can make sure that things are happening correctly. We talked about online banking and how you have access to your statements and all of your transactions, and that you can do most types of transactions through online banking, which can be really useful. And then we talked about debit card banking and how using an ATM, there are most likely fees associated with that, particularly if you are using one that is not associated with your bank. So be conscious of that and be careful. And then also you can do most types of transactions again at an ATM if it's associated with your bank. In lesson 11, we looked at credit cards. So we made sure that we understood the vocabulary and how to apply for a credit card. We talked about how to choose a credit card. So looking at the interest rate, if there's any annual fees, if there's a credit score tracker, if it requires a security deposit, and if it has any rewards. So thinking about where you're going to use it and how you're going to use it is a really good thing to reflect upon before you just apply to any general credit card. We talked about the true costs of borrowing and how minimum payments mean that you have interest charged on all of your new purchases and the balance as soon as you only pay the minimum payment. So it is best to pay off your complete balance in full by the due date in order to not be charged interest. And that interest is charged on your credit card by using the compound interest formula, and it's compounded daily. So every day your interest is having an impact. Then in lesson 12, we looked at loans. So we looked at the various types of borrowing, comparing a loan to a credit card and to a line of credit. We also talked about the dangers of payday loans and check cashing services, as these are other ways that you can potentially access money, but that payday loans particularly are really, really high interest rates, though they don't tell you that. They just say a low fee of whatever. But realistically, that payday loans are not a great option, as they trap you in debt cycle and you most likely are going to struggle a lot to get out. Then we talked about the cost of loans. So the fact that having a larger loan amount or having a longer term, so paying it back over a longer period of time, having lower payments or having a higher interest rate or having less frequent payments all cost you more interest. So if you can adjust any of these things, then you are going to be paying less interest and saving more money. Then we looked at amortization and how it shows how much your payment goes towards paying off your loan and how much it is going towards your interest. So you can see that at the beginning of a loan, most of your payment goes towards the interest, paying the lender for borrowing. And then over time, you end up paying more towards your principal as you get closer to the end of your loan. Okay, so let's do some mixed practice. Let's look at our questions and see if we can figure out what tools that we have we're going to use in order to answer these individual questions. Number one, Larry, a student, earns $9.75 per hour and worked 15 hours a week for 45 weeks last year. Which credit card would be right for him? So first off, we know that in Ontario, it's not legal to pay students even $9.75 an hour, but this is just a random number to go with the question. So don't worry about that. So we have 3 cards. Card A does not have any annual fee. Card has a minimum household income of $15,000 and a minimum student income of $1,200, and it has a credit limit of $500. Card B has an annual fee of $29, has a minimum household income of $25,000 and a minimum student income of $2,300. It has a credit limit of $1,500. And card C has an annual fee of $99 with a minimum household income of $35,000, a minimum student income of $5,000, and a credit limit of $5,000. So what we need to know is we need to know how much Larry's student income is in order to figure out if any of these are an option for him. So to figure that out, we need to do this sort of a combination of an hourly wage question and a credit card question. So we do $9.75 times 15. So that's how much money he would make a week, and then times 45 to figure out how much he would make in the year. So grab our calculator. So we got 975 times 15 times 45 equals $6,561.25. 65, 81, 25. Okay, so in terms of the minimum student income, he makes more than all of the minimum student incomes, right? It was card C, it's 5,000, card B, it's 2,300, card A is 1,200. So he can pick any, he qualifies or is eligible for any of those cards. So then from there, Larry just needs to decide what's right for him based on his experience. I would strongly suggest that Larry goes with card A. You can pick a different answer. You don't have to have the same answer, but I'm going to say I think Larry should choose card A, even though he is eligible for all cards. And this is the key part, because, so giving a reason, you can pick any of the options, but you need to give me a real reason that makes sense. So I think that he should pick card A because there's no fee. And it has a low limit to start with. Over time, if Larry's able to use his card responsibly and with thought, then he can ask for a credit limit increase, and that might work out really well for him. But I think that starting with a low limit is a good place to start as you're building your credit score. But as a student, most likely you're probably working on building your credit score. All right, number 2, Raleigh borrowed $15,000. He can either pay it back after 5 years with simple interest at a rate of 6%, or after 7 years with compound quarterly interest at a rate of 5%, which is the better option to owe the least interest. So this is a simple interest and compound interest question. We need to compare 2 situations. So we have our simple interest. We have our compound interest. So I like to keep myself organized and organize it like this. You can decide how you want to organize it. So for simple interest, we know the formula is I equals P R T. So our variables, our principal is 15,000. Our rate is 6%, which is 0.06. And our time is 5 years. So we put those into our formula. So 15,000 times 0.06 times 5 equals using our calculator. 15,000 times 0.06 times 5 is $4,500 in interest. 4,500. So that is if he does simple interest, that's how much he's going to have to pay. So with compound interest, we know our formula is A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT. Remember, you don't have to have this memorized. So P is still 15,000. R for this part is an interest rate of 5%, so 0.05. N is equal to 4 because it's compounded quarterly. And T is equal to 7 because it's over 7 years. So substitute in our values. So 15,000 times 1 plus 0.05 divided by 4, also the exponent 4 times 7. Been a while since we've done one of these questions, but remember, you can either do it individually or you can do it all at once on your calculator, which is the way that I like to do it, particularly because I'm using a Desmos calculator and I can see if I make a mistake, which happens all of the time. So there we go. So then I get $21,239.88. Now our numbers are really, really different, right? Because one was 4,500, and here we have $21,239.88. Remember, with compound interest, they tell you the interest. With simple interest, they tell you the interest. With compound interest, we need to find the interest. So the interest is equal to the amount to take away the principal. So we have to do $21,239.88, take away $15,000. Sorry, that 15 looks kind of like an 8. So if we do that on our calculator, we get $6,239.88 in compound interest. So, which is our better option to owe the least interest? So the simple interest option is best for Ralphie. So even though it is a higher interest rate, because it's not compounded, it is a better option. Okay, number 3. Suppose Matt's gross income is about $1,978. Calculate his net income by determining his deductions. So this is the kind of question that there are lots of steps. So it's really important to keep yourself organized. So I've given ourselves a chart to help keep us organized. You can do this, or you can organize yourself in a different way. That's fine. But this is a net income, gross income question. So there's lots of different pieces that we need to put together. So first part here is that we need to do the gross yearly income. And that's what we're trying to find out. We're trying to find out about his yearly net income. So first we need to figure out his gross income, which we have his gross monthly income. So $1,987 times 12 is going to give us our gross income, our gross yearly income. So that's $23,844. So that is key that we figure that out first so that we can use that information for the rest of our calculations. Okay, so then to figure our deductions, we need to do our CPP, our EI, our federal tax, and our provincial tax. So I've given us some information over here. So here I have EI is 1.58% up to $889.54. So we do our gross income, $23,844, and we times that by 0.0158 to see what that equals, to see how much we contribute to EI in this year. I'll just move my calculator someplace. It's going to be in the way wherever I put it. Okay. So that is $376.74. Now, is that over the maximum? The maximum is $889.54. Nope. So it's not over the maximum. So that means that that is the actual amount that we pay into EI for this year, or that Matt pays. Okay, so then the same thing for CPP, Canadian Pension Plan. We take our gross payment, or gross income, times it by 0.0545, right? 5.45%. And we see if, so that gives us $1,299.50. Now, is that over the maximum, which is $2,898? Nope. So that means that that's the actual amount that we pay into CPP that year. Okay. So we've got that started, but now we need to do the income tax. And what I've done with income tax is I've got a separate page to just give us space. So first, remember that our yearly income is $23,844. So we need that information. So we're going to do our federal income tax first. We see that federal income tax, we get 15% on the first $50,197. Now, Max's income is less than that. So Max's income only falls into that first pocket. We only need to calculate it on that first pocket because he doesn't have any extra income that falls into the second pocket. He doesn't fill up the first pocket. So we do 23,844 times 15%, which is 0.15, and we get $3,576.60. There's not a maximum cap for this, just because that's not how income tax works. Okay, so we've done federal. So now we need to do Ontario because we're in Ontario. So again, we look and we see, where does our max income fall? Well, the first pocket, which everybody has to pay into, is for the first 46,229. So we don't fill up that pocket. So we're going to only fit into that pocket. So that means we multiply our gross income by 0.0505 because it's 5.05% in the first pocket. So we do that math and we get $1,204.12. It's how much we pay income tax into the Fort Provincial. Okay, so now we're going to take this information and we're going to fill it into our previous chart. So for federal income tax, it's $35,7660. And for Ontario tax, it's $1204.12. So then to find the total of our deductions, we need to add these four numbers up, because those are all the things that we pay into over the course of the year. So we add them up and we get $6,456.96. Now that is, we're going to subtract that from our gross, as our gross is what we start with, and then we pay off the deductions. So we subtract the deductions and see what we're left with. So we're left with $17,387.04 is how much is Matt's net income for the year. So again, there are lots of steps. So it's really important for these sorts of questions to keep yourself organized, to figure out all the various steps that you need to do, so you figure out what works best for you. Okay, number 4. Here's the part of Ryan's passbook that shows his transactions in May. When did Ryan get paid? Is part A. So we look and we see, okay, here his transaction says pay in the deposit. So that happens on May 21st. This is the banking transaction, making sure you understand the codes. What transactions did he make on May 9th and May 28th? So we look at May 9th, it says access point ATM WD withdrawal. So that is May 9th. So an ATM withdrawal. And on May 27th or 28th, sorry, it's a cash, a check cleared. So he had written a check and it cleared his account on May 28th. Explain how the amounts in the balance column are calculated. So we're looking over here at the balance column. So that is the amount of money that is in the account at the end of the transaction. So you subtract or add depending on if it's a withdrawal or deposit. So it's the money that you have left. Okay, so those are some banking transaction questions. Number 5, reverse the amortization schedule for Alexis's car loan. How many years is it going to pay for the car? So we look at the schedule. So it says has a number of payments per year, 12, so monthly payments, the interest rate, which is 1.9, the amount of the loan, $26,731.73, the length of the loan in years, 3. Okay, so that's, the question says how many years is it going to take to pay off the loan, the car? So 3 years. How much will the car have cost them? So so we can then see, okay, so calculation of payment is, the payments are $764.50, and there's 36 payments. So to figure out how much it's going to cost in total, we do the payment amount times the number of payments. So 764.50 times 36 is equal to 27,512. Sorry, 522. Don't know where the 12 came from. So then so that's how much it's going to cost them in total. How often are their payments? Monthly, because it says that there's 12 times once a year. And what do you notice about the portion of each payment that is interest as the payments are made? What about the principal portion? So if we look at here, we can see the interest gets lower and the principal gets higher. So interest starts high, gets low. And principal starts low, gets high. And that's how loans always work. All right, so we have completed unit 1 and 2 and almost 3. So you can hand in your lessons 1 through 12 for marking. Remember to do the key questions. You need to do them all and to show your work, as that's what I'm looking for. So if you have any questions or concerns, please connect with me. I'm always here to support you. You can call me at the office at 807-737-1488, extension 2209. You can also call toll free at 1-800-667-3703. My email address is bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca, or you can connect with me through Facebook, where my name is B. Slate Wahsa. Also, you can check out my YouTube channel, which is also called B. Slate Wahsa, where all of our lessons are, and you can go back and review things as you needed. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a lovely March break, which